we let go of a mindset, please, as property investors? I honestly beg you. You do not need to keep buying more and more and more properties. What happens if you could create the wealth that you wanted out of the properties that you've already got? Have you ever looked at what you've already got? Most people haven't. So many investors are so caught up with what they're seeing on social media. You know, buy, I've got to go out and find another property. But if you had one property that was creating you £15,000 a month, you're not going to be like, oh yeah, I might go and buy another one. If you don't need to, you don't need to. Now, I'm not saying that that's in every single person's remit. What I'm saying is, please, can you look at what you've already got? There are so many ways of increasing value, increasing your income before you even have to go out and start looking for that next property. Because that takes time, right? Going out, finding your ideal property, finding a property that's going to grow over the coming years, all takes time. And we have to be really strategic in the way that we're thinking about it. Okay, so that being said, what are growth adding activities that you can do? Well, firstly, you can look at where you can increase the rent. For residential, that comes at the end of every 12 months. Have a look. Has the rent gone up? Could you increase it? Or if a tenant is moving, what do you need to do to get to that next rent boundary? Have a look. Start researching that. Doing the feasibility study on that is going to take you a little bit of time, but could bring in thousands of extra pounds, maybe a year, but maybe over a longer period, like a 10-year period. With commercial, those are lease events. So you can increase the rent at either a rent review or a lease renewal or a surrender and re-gear, if that's what you want to do. If you need to be in the market, checking at where market rents are so that you can see if that rent should be increased or not. Also, make sure when you're negotiating new lease terms, you are putting in place lease terms which are valuable to you as the landlord. So full repairing and insuring leases, making sure that the rent reviews are potentially upward only if you can, or putting staggered rent increases throughout the term. Also, you want to make sure that if you need that flexibility, that you have an outside the act lease as well, instead of an inside the act lease. Inside the act leases are great if you've got a tenant who you know is going to stay in there for the foreseeable future and you already have those landlord-friendly lease clauses in place. If you don't, you need outside the act so that you can renegotiate that when that comes to the end of the term. You also need good quality tenants who are going to stay the course, they're going to keep paying you, and guess what? They are out there. They really are out there, because think about all of those businesses that you've still used during the course of the pandemic. We all have to go out and get food, drink, resources, supplies. There are still businesses who are doing pretty well right now. Those are the kind of tenants that we want to be getting in. Good tenants, again, increase the value of the property because they are a more reliable covenant. All of these things we can think about, and hey, I haven't told you to buy a new property yet, have I? Similarly, you want to be getting your properties valued regularly. So for residential, get estate agents round at least once a year. They're a very good indicator for where the market is. They also tend to drop really good tidbits of things that you could do to increase the value. Again, you then need to look at the cost versus the benefit of that. Does it make sense financially to do this? This is where you are going to start making money. And I don't just want you to think about it in the short term. You need to know what you could do in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, in 15 years' time, in 20 years' time. This is not short term. This is long term. So we have to be buying with an eye of moving assets. And I am going to come to moving assets later in this video series, but it's a really good term for the sort of property that you need to be looking at if you do have to buy. Now, I'm also not saying don't add to your property portfolio. There'll come to a time where you've got the cash in the bank and you're like, yeah, sure, now's the time to buy another good investment. It makes sense. But you should only be buying when it makes sense. In the interim, you need to be tracking everything that's coming in, everything that is growing. So the value of your property portfolio, the rental value, you need to be tracking void periods, you need to be tracking how long it takes you to rent a property. These stats are vital for you being able to manage your income and growing that. Should we take a look? Okay, so welcome to my famous cash flow diagram template. Okay, this is something that I use in the members club with all of my members to forecast out their property portfolio. This is where the strategy comes from. This is an example of a 3 property mixed use properties portfolio. This is a 3 property portfolio. This is assuming we buy nothing at all. This now just plays out. So when you click on each of the tabs, you can see the different properties. So we've got 250, maybe market value at so was purchased for 200,000, market value 250. Property 2, purchased for 400,000. Then we've got goes up to 450,000. Then we've got 300,000 and goes up to 340,000. These are actually representations of some of the deals that have been found within the members club, and they really do vary, really do vary, depending on the investor, but we do a lot of mixed use. And so what this cash flow spreadsheet starts showing you is the income and how income adds up over a monthly basis. And what you can see here is every single month the investor is paying themselves £1,500. Everything else accrues. Really simple. I am not saying that your strategy has to be as simple as this. I'm saying this is a very good starting point. Then what you see every month is everything is accruing. By the time we get to the end of this strategy, without having bought anything, this investor, without even allowing this money to compound, has then got £166,163.78 in their bank account at the end. Now, what I do want you to realise is that at some points we do remortgages and then they pour a bit of cash out and that goes into the pot. That is assuming that the value of the property has gone up and value has been made by increasing the rents or adding value to the property. Really easy way of doing it. Or maybe it just went up naturally. Here, this just went up naturally. But if you see, simply by increasing the rent, which probably would happen over the natural course of the time, all of a sudden, simply by increasing the rent by £250 per calendar month on that one building, your amount of capital, I guess, in your bank account has gone up over the 5 years by roughly £7,500. See, these small differences create big changes over the long term. The problem as investors is that we look far too short term and we want to try and claw everything back out. When actually, if we're a little bit more patient and we tweak our property portfolio slightly, we can start making huge differences. I mean, look at this. Let me put this one up by, again, £250 per calendar month. Property 3, we'll just put it up to 2,000. You know, small, tiny increments, which with commercial probably wouldn't be the case either. But look, that's now at 182,813. What would you do with that much capital? What would you invest in next? What we then do with these is we start identifying, you know, at what point could we buy another property? Here, it might be a bit slow all the way through until probably around September 2022. But in this period of time, we've got huge amounts of time where we can increase the value of the property. We can do developments, we can increase the rent. You know, having £20,000 in the bank, imagine if you spent that £20,000 on a property and it went up in value. This is what being an asset manager is all about. You look for the opportunities in your property portfolio. And this also helps you find investor finance. It helps you find when you can buy new deals. It helps you know when you can repay investors back. As asset managers, we have to look at the whole picture. We cannot just stay stuck. This is the sort of thing I want to be drilling into investors and landlords. Look at what you've got already. Map it out. How can you play that property portfolio to your strengths and earn more money from it? You don't need more properties. You just need to be thinking strategically. That is what this is about. And this is what helps you make very, very, very good decisions. If you need help with decisions or even how you're mapping out things like this, please come to my decision making clinic. I've put the link in the email and I've put the link below so you can come and join me. This is the sort of thing that we are going to be going through.